The latest new details about Hellblade 2 are somewhat expected after the 30 FPS news hit when the Hellblade 2 previews became available. And I have to say, the new info from some of the breakdowns from Digital Foundry especially, I just think it's very disappointing. This is still my most anticipated game of the year, and I'm confident that certain aspects are going to hit levels of excellence because I do trust in Ninja Theory for certain things, but there's just an obvious emphasis in priorities that's coming to the surface, and I just don't celebrate that. I always worry that that's going to be to the game's detriment. Even though there are outlets like Digital Foundry and Eurogamer, they're sort of celebrating these things, I find it to be exactly what I don't want from a game dev, especially when it's a game that I have such a strong attachment to. My gut instinct on games rarely fails me. I've misfired on some predictions, but generally my gut on these things is pretty reliable, and this is one time that I really hope I'm off in left field when it comes to just the litany of red flags that continue to stack up for Hellblade 2. I will say there is a silver lining that with such an emphasis placed on production that we will get a good game in certain aspects, but I'm still going to be pretty critical of some of the things they're doing. I'm going to talk about that, like what's the silver lining, you know, why am I still kind of holding out hope for this game. Now, I put all of the good information right here at the beginning. I opened the show with the monologue. It's why the video is a lot longer, because it is a live stream. You're like, why is this a 2-hour long video? If you want to make sure you are here for the live streams, hit subscribe, hit the bell button. When you hit the like button, that helps as well, and you can consider becoming a member by clicking the join button. We have new details about the performance and quality of Hellblade 2 thanks to Digital Foundry, and I have to say, it's far more disappointing than exciting. Despite how enthralled Digital Foundry and others might be with Ninja Theory and what they're doing with the Unreal 5 engine, when I did the show about 30 FPS just about a week ago, I said that the game was being defended as if it was a glorified Unreal 5 tech demo, and the breakdown from Digital Foundry confirms some of those fears. And if you actually made it this far without running to the comments to claim that I'm just hating on Xbox, I have played through the first Hellblade 3 different times. I'm only missing one trophy because I always miss the one rune in the one section, but this is my all-time favorite game, okay? I believe it is the most complete piece of gaming as art that we have. I've said this very many times. When you attempt to make a video game and you view it as a piece of art, I believe that the first Hellblade is the most complete package. And everything I'm hearing about the game's performance from the Digital Foundry breakdown is exactly what I do not want from a game or a game developer. But I will say there is this silver lining that, you know, I'm going to make some predictions about where this game lands. But before I do that, I want to walk through sort of like what has happened, right? We've had trailers, we've had the game show up and look different, you know, over time. Then there was the announcement about 30 FPS from the previews, and then there was my response and coverage as well as the public's response to this. I'm going to lean on Eurogamer. They actually pulled out highlights from the Digital Foundry video about the latest footage from Hellblade 2, and I'm going to give you my position on this because some fans are super excited, and I'm going to tell you why I am not excited. So first, just a very quick backstory, because I'm showing you one of the trailers, right? I'm actually starting to regret doing an entire show where I defended the gameplay trailer with like the notorious red scenes with the chopped up clips of combat. This trailer here, where people started noticing it didn't quite look like the other trailer that I was just showing you a second ago. The more and more I've thought about it, the more concern I have about just how inconsistent all of the footage of this game has looked. It went from looking like a fully rendered cinematic form of simulated gameplay that was too good to be true when they attacked the giant in the cave, to a more grounded feeling with still very realistic faces and realistic environments. But it still felt like they were very hesitant to show us uncut or raw gameplay. And I did a little bit of research, and I'm just going to add this into the monologue. The original announcement trailer for Hellblade 2 in 2019 said that the game was being built for the Xbox Series X. I have to say that simply is not true. It's very clear this was not built for the Xbox Series X. And you also have to remember, when that 2019 Hellblade 2 trailer landed, it was basically one of the big titles that we were seeing for like the Project Scarlet and the Series X. Everything we were hearing about this new console that Xbox was going to be making, and this is what we get. We get a game that is, in my estimation, a tech demo for the Unreal 5 engine that was not custom built for the Series X. So all of this time, I've continued to feel like, why won't they just show us raw, uncut gameplay? Why is it so choppy? Why does it all look so different? Most of that, to me, was just them learning how to leverage Unreal. I thought, okay, some of those first trailers were a little crazy, maybe a little too good to be true. I still maintain that this is not raw gameplay. I think that this is an actually fully rendered environment where they're not at all, going to give you this experience in the game. I don't even know if this sequence is going to be in the game. It seems too big from what we're hearing from the previews and the breakdowns about performance. This entire exchange where they go into this cave and take out this monstrous, giant guy, and then they end up back out on the beach. I don't even know if it's going to be in the game. And if it does, I'm curious how it will actually run. And this close to the launch, I think we're finally getting some decent analysis because we actually have some preview footage that is, being broken down. And I have to say, the public response to the 30 FPS announcement has been nothing short of embarrassing, to the point that responding to some of the cliches, it's just not worth my time. 30 FPS is more cinematic, expecting 60 FPS from the console is not reasonable, and, if you want 60 FPS, buy a PC. I'm not even going to respond to these statements anymore. It's not worth my time and energy. They're intellectually bankrupt, okay? You're better off not even reacting to this stuff anymore. It's just parroted by people who can't think for themselves. So now let's look at what Digital Foundry has to say about the gameplay. So Eurogamer provided a very helpful breakdown of the Digital Foundry preview. They basically did a Hellblade 2 preview reaction. Now the article is entitled Hellblade 2 looks like the most visually ambitious Unreal Engine 5 game yet, and then the Digital Foundry YouTube title is Hellblade 2 preview reaction, the new state of the art for Unreal Engine 5 ? So they're kind of asking the question. Now the first thing they start with is the visuals in Senua's face. They say in terms of visual features, Hellblade 2 is clearly pushing some of the really impressive tech. Senua's meta-human-derived facial rendering is the extreme strong point here, up there with the absolute best in video games. Now, I actually completely agree with this. I don't think anybody would look at the footage coming from Hellblade 2 from the beginning, even to now. There have been some downgrades, but even now, she looks fantastic. It looks like she's really in the game. Melina Juergens brings an intensity and a gravity to the character of Senua, and the tech utilized for her facial capture and the rendering is undeniably the best that I have seen. They quite literally have put her into the game. Now, Eurogamer spends a good amount of time praising the lighting and the small elements like pebbles and good use of lumen and indirect lighting effects. They did seem to indicate that the jury is currently out on reflections, since there is evidence of a mixture of techniques that have been utilized across the various footage and trailers. Now, high praise was given for the mocap of the animations in combat, which is something that we actually heard from the previews. And they did highlight that Ninja Theory has opted to do the pause of the animation when an attack connects. Now, a lot of people didn't realize that's actually in the first game. Now, when you're watching a trailer and you see those frame pauses in combat, it can be pretty jarring, but when you're playing, it actually adds some impact and weight to the hits. That does this in Hellblade 1. This is not new. It threw people off. They're like, the combat looks choppy. Now, this animation pause also happens whenever you land the hit on an enemy. It's not just when you swing. I actually think it gives it a nice feel. Now, this is when they start talking about image quality. So Eurogamer is going to talk about image quality here, and they say the following. In the high-quality preview footage that we have, the game remains quite soft, especially in motion, though a lot of this seems to stem from very aggressive post-processing. And this is when certain words are going to start showing up that many of us in the gaming world are starting to loathe. They say the following. They say, the usual suspects show up here: motion blur, depth of field, chromatic aberration, and film grain, which do end up blurring the image somewhat. Now, these are all things that you get when you push the visuals so much that you have to drop the FPS to 30, which many will say is necessary when running 30 FPS, right? Well, you need motion blur or it's going to look terrible, right? In my experience, it actually heightens the sense of blurriness or the muddiness of the experience. In other words, this is exactly what I feared, all right? A game that is so visually heavy and intense that blurring is basically a requirement, which negates all your pretty graphics if you have to turn on all this stuff that makes it look like a blurry, muddy mess. I don't think you've achieved anything. I think you've basically tied an anchor around the game at that point. Now, Eurogamer concludes this section by saying, Hellblade 2 is unique here in that these effects seem unusually high quality and unusually pervasive. The film grain in particular seems quite harsh, so hopefully the game ships with an option to disable it. I wouldn't hold my breath for a lot of options on the console. Now, image quality was not the only issue here, okay? Eurogamer's also talking about the softness and how that does sometimes show up in cinematics. He says, I think a little bit of softness, especially in cinematics, is perfectly fine, and the game does have a filmic look at times as a result. However, there are also some image breakup in motion, which is most noticeable in the action sequences from the preview. This, again, reinforces my concern. Immersion is vitally important for Hellblade. It's the selling point of the first game. Immersion is the key, and if the action and the combat experience suffers because of this overemphasis on visuals, well, that's going to be to the game's detriment. This might also be why we're hearing that combat is always going to be one-on-one, which that could be great if it leads to like really, really tight, challenging fights and really, really good boss fights. I actually think the best fight from the first game is Valravn, because you have these really great opportunities for parries, and it's just you and one enemy. But there were great sequences where there were lots of enemies in Hellblade 1, especially near the back half of the game when you're down in like the water and everything's on fire. You're basically in hell. Like, those sequences are incredibly impactful because there's so many enemies coming toward you and so many enemies that you have to manage. And if that's been stripped away because they decided to go crazy with the graphics, then you have actually, I think, lowered the game's quality. You haven't expanded it at all. And apparently some of the issues show up in gameplay with that ability that Senua has where she can sort of slow down time. They said the following: Hellblade has a blurred, slightly artifact-prone quality in fast motion, which holds especially true when Senua activates an ability to slow down time, which appears to turn off the motion blur that otherwise helps hide some of those artifacts. Now, this is somewhat compounding as a concern, because let's say they do let you turn off motion blur. Well, according to this, that's when all those artifacts are going to show up. So you're basically, if you disable motion blur, you have to choose between two bad options. Like, is the game going to look blurry, or is it going to have all this artifacting? Then we get to resolution, which is obviously making the rounds on Twitter. I know you've seen the tweets. People are, I think, rightly being critical, because many people assumed we would be getting a game that is 4K, right? If it's going to be 30 FPS, I feel like I'd be staring down the barrel of a 4K game, right? No, wrong. It's actually more in the range of 1440, and it will dip below that down to, close to 1080, because the resolution is dynamic. You're also dealing with letterbox. You see those great black bars in the top and the bottom behind me? Those will be there all of the time when you are playing Hellblade 2. The last concern put forth by Eurogamer is about the volumetric effects, and they say the following: another image quality concern resolves around the resolution of the volumetric effects. The low-lying fog seen in the footage has artifacting issues that suffers from visibly low-res rendering. These effects look good, I think, but they don't hold up as well with close scrutiny. Again, reducing resolution of volumetric effects is not specific to Hellblade 2. Many games do it. Now, to me, this is the type of thing that generally goes unnoticed, right? I'm not saying this is a deal breaker, but given everything we've already discussed, it's just one more log in the fire. The author can't help but wonder why we didn't get a 40 FPS 120 Hz mode, why that wouldn't have been offered, which means we could be looking at another Starfield. It was proven that a 60 FPS mode would have worked for Starfield on the Xbox Series X, but this is a possible parity clause with first-party Xbox games that you can't launch a first-party game and have 60 FPS or maybe even a 40 FPS mode for the Series X if you can't do it for the S. If a game launches at 30, it's 30 on both. If they do a 60 FPS update, both of them get it. It wouldn't surprise me at all if first-party studios are being told you can't ship with better things on the Series X, which is honestly stupid given the marketing, but we all know Xbox privated their video because they lied about the differences between the Series X and the Series S and the performance that we would be getting. Just like, well, maybe they should private the 2019 Hellblade 2 announcement trailer, since it says it was built for the Series X, and that's turning out not to be true either. Great track record here, Xbox. Just keep setting videos to private so that maybe we'll finally forget how many lies you told about this generation. So the Series S may be indeed a contributing culprit in the room once again. I don't believe it's the primary cause, to be sure. It's abundantly evident that they made creative and art direction choices for this game that is weighing it down. I also think this paragraph is worth reading because I resonate with what feels like a scope change from the early trailers. If you watch the early trailers, especially the one that I've been showing you where they go into the cave and then they're on the beach and it's this big open space. If you go back to the original trailer where there's like all these people around and she's singing and it feels like it's going to be like a larger game compared to the first game, well, this is not the case according to the people who have been looking at these previews. At least that's not what it seems like. This is the paragraph. Judging by the footage, the only real concession in Hellblade 2 comes down to the size and scope of the game. Hellblade 2 is a smaller title than a lot of its contemporaries with a structure that looks similar to the first game. Early trailers suggested something a bit broader might be on the cards, but more recent showings, including the latest preview footage, seems to show a game that is more tightly constrained, built around narrow passageways, linear paths, and one-on-one duels. Judging from the previews from other outlets, the final game may largely stick to this pattern, which would show some restraint relative to the other popular single-player action titles. See this swooping camera shot we're getting? See this wide-open beach scene? If this makes it into the final game, I'll honestly be shocked after everything we're hearing about the performance and the structure of this game. Now, this obviously makes me wonder if there's other things that had to change as well. This cave sequence could be seen as, I don't know, just promotional material and it never lands, right? Will that ever even be in the game? Will anything that we originally thought happened, maybe they stripped this thing down. Remember how much they removed from Halo Infinite before it launched? Maybe this game had to gut a lot of its creative choices because in 2019, maybe they thought they were only going to be building this for the Series X. I don't really know. I'm starting to doubt that the game ever features instances of the scope and the size that we've seen in trailers like this. The author also expressed concern and interest in how is this game even going to run on the Series S, and the following quote is a great transition into giving you my thoughts and my position on this. This is what Eurogamer says. The game's image quality, at least judging from this preview, is a little mixed, though I think expectations should probably be adjusted given the quality and the character and the graphics on display. This is a narrative-focused cinematic title, perhaps similar to the Order 1886, and it isn't aiming for a super sharp, super clear image. Well, you can frickin' say that again. It certainly isn't going for a super sharp, super clear image with dynamic resolution, blurring effects, artifacts, and fast motions. Apparently not a good idea when you're playing this game. So this is a great runway. Let me tell you what I think about this. Yes, I am not happy about what's happening to one of, if not my all-time favorite games sequel and the most anticipated game for me in 2024. So much of what I read in the Eurogamer article, it's all of the things that I hate in gaming. It's all the things that I turn off in the settings. I don't want to deal with these things. After 4 years of playing next-gen games, I have no tolerance for any of this. Motion blur, an emphasis on lighting or higher resolution at the cost of performance. Why? Why are we still doing this? This is a trope. This is a cliche. It's a stereotype. No one cares how pretty your game is if it doesn't run well, okay? This isn't Screenshot Simulator. It's supposed to be a video game. I said this on Twitter, and I will say it again now. It sounds like they built a really good Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, and I've never hoped that I was wrong more than I hope I'm wrong now. I really hope that is not the case. Just listen to the final line of the Eurogamer article. This could be the very best looking Unreal Engine 5 title out there when it releases on May 21st, which is no small feat. Well, this could be great. But it could also be the only thing that anybody celebrates about the game. Being the best looking game doesn't really matter if the game doesn't run well. If it looks like a blurry, muddy mess the minute you move, or if you get into an action sequence, since that's one of the primary selling points of the first game is the sense of threat that you might die, that you might permanently die. The bravery, the courage, the artistic vision of the first game to lie to you. You think you can actually permanently permanently die, but you can't. They actually manipulate the psychosis and the psychology of the player from moment one. But I'm going to be playing a game that apparently gets choppy and artifacty and blurry when I get into one-on-one combat. Well, sign me up for that. I can't wait to play that. Remember that the article talked about the fast moment, the action. All those things are when things start to chop up and fall apart. That's a huge immersion breaker. It happened in the reverse in Final Fantasy 16. The action and the combat was smooth, and then when I went to a town or wanted to explore, it was a stuttering mess. It's going to be hard to get immersed in fast action and combat when things are shaky and less consistent. So let me give you a prediction here, and this is where I'm going to try to give a silver lining, okay? Because I am very passionate about this game. I have very strong opinions about Hellblade, and seeing the sequel come out the way that it's coming out right now is incredibly concerning. But I actually think the story will be great. Why? Well, because the writers and the actors, they're going to want a synergistic relationship between what they have done and all of this focus on production. Essentially, I am trusting the priorities that are actually bothering me, okay? This overemphasis on production. I hope that motivated the acting and the writing to just be absolutely top-notch, which I also think means that the audio quality is going to once again be superb, okay? Hellblade isn't Hellblade without fantastic audio. And if you played the first game without headphones, you robbed yourself of one of the best gaming experiences available in the market. Go back and replay it with headphones, okay? If you've never played the first game, play it with headphones or you're a fool. I also think Melina Juergens will deliver an award-winning performance. She's had more time to hone her craft, to improve as an actor. And again, the production focus likely elevated her work and her contribution to this project. So I do think we're going to get a fantastic story with great acting, brilliant audio quality, and there's going to be that dark, macabre, creative storytelling like we saw in the first game. But the focus on production will hurt things like combat. It's going to hurt things like performance, which I truly hope does not hurt the immersion or the delivery of this story. Hellblade is an important game to me. And the sequel, which was very clearly hinted at even in the closing scene of the first game, it's something that I've been waiting for a long time. So I'm concerned and I'm really disappointed at what I'm hearing. I'm still holding out hope that they just made a great game and it just might have focused on the wrong things, so it really hurt the Xbox Series X owners, one last time this generation. But if I can get a great experience on PC, I'll be happy with that. But that's just what I think. What do you think? So let me give you my closing thoughts and conclusion on this. Some of that wasn't even scripted. I'm really passionate about this game. It's so hard not to get too invested in certain video games, okay? We do this with fandom all of the time. We can take fandom too far. Those of us who grew up with Star Wars, we know what it's like to watch what we loved turned into something that's been super inconsistent and sometimes just downright awful. I experienced the first Hellblade game at a time when I really needed it. The journey through darkness, facing internal demons, coming out on the other end a more whole person. I've got 3 playthroughs, and I genuinely feel like every time I played through Hellblade 1, I saw something new. I felt something new. It's a truly special game. Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima are very similar games to me. I needed them. I needed to push through the difficulty. I needed to have a serene experience where I debated between vengeance, revenge, and justice, and is there some sort of a thin line between all of those things? Those games are important to me. Obviously, if PlayStation dropped Ghost of Tsushima at 30 FPS with this huge emphasis on lighting and graphics, I'd be irritated because those are all the things that I'm tired of development companies doing. But the fact of the matter is, I don't have a thought or a worry about that. I know that Ghost of Tsushima is not going to do that. Why? Because the priorities of the PlayStation platform are well established at this point. Xbox continues to make me ask the question, why did I even buy an Xbox Series X? You kicked off the marketing for this generation of console with Hellblade 2, stating that it was being built for the Series X, and I've got another 30 FPS game. The second thing I want to say is, Even now, seeing people take solace or finding excitement in Sarah Bond literally saying the same thing she already said on the Xbox podcast about the next generation of hardware. She uses the word hardware, but then the headlines are using the word console. Here we go again, right? Reading and listening skills are very important these days. I saw somebody say that Xbox is playing chess and not checkers. Now, I'm not a chess master, but if Xbox is playing chess, they've taken a pretty big risk sacrificing their queen, and I think that's the Series X. They just laid it on its side. They're like, we're not going to do anything for this box. All of the marketing promises, who cares about those? If you're banking on whatever they do next in hardware, if you feel like they've really got it together now, that feels like Stockholm Syndrome to me. I don't know how anybody could be satisfied with the hardware this generation and the marketing promises from Xbox. My conclusion is this. I honestly didn't even want to do this show, but the revelations from the Digital Foundry breakdown, they were too significant to ignore, especially about my most anticipated game for this year. We went from an almost unreal, almost unbelievable trailer here with huge environments and big sequences of fights and action to a game that's been stripped down to corridors and one-on-one fights and blurring effects because they turned everything up to 11. My tweet about the game sounding more and more like a tech demo is resonating with people because I don't think I'm alone in this. It's like, can't we leave behind this idea that you got to just push the tech so far that then we don't get a game that's enjoyable to play? It's going to feel bad if all of those performance issues rear their head. It's not even a 4K game. This is probably the most I've ever wanted to be wrong about something. I make a lot of predictions about the games and the gaming industry and where things are headed. 2024 has been pretty good for my batting average. I had to avoid doing like 7 I told you so videos in a row. I had one major strikeout with Kill the Justice League, right? Even all-stars miss the ball sometimes. So I really hope I'm missing again. I hope everything that I'm sensing, everything that I'm feeling about Hellblade 2, I hope it's all wrong. The trailers have never looked and felt the same. The style and the feel and the vibe of the game has never looked and felt the same. It's continued to feel like something that got whittled down into a very short tech demo. Now, I'm going to throw confetti in the air if I get to do a video and say, hey, I was wrong about Hellblade 2. I will literally hold confetti and throw it in the air at the beginning of that video if I get to make that video, okay? I'm not going to ever say that I was wrong about 30 FPS. Nobody's going back on that except for people who defend a piece of plastic to the death. They're the only ones that are going back on 30 FPS. The rest of us are not. The rest of us that wanted 60, like 60, and we prefer 60, I'm not going back on that. That's always going to be a terrible choice. It's a huge blemish on Xbox this generation. But the game itself, if it rises above being just a tech demo, if it's a fantastic sequel, I will celebrate that. Even if I have to play on my PC instead of the console that it was originally claimed to be made for. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts. And I probably could have gone for another hour. I am not happy, chat. I really am not happy about this. The more I read that Eurogamer article, and it's like every paragraph, it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. I was like, really? I was like, it's not even 4K? Like, what are we doing? Oh, my word. And it's 30 FPS. It's like a laundry list of everything I don't want in a game. Yeah, you want that motion blur? Yeah, you want that 30 FPS? Yeah, you want that artifacting? Oh, you want things to get a little hitchy and glitchy the minute you get into combat? Oh, we've got plenty of that. Oh my gosh, those are all the things I hate. And Han shot first, and so did you. A 10 bomb from Alex during the monologue. Thank you so much, sir. Starting the day right. You guys are at like 2250 right now. We're aiming for 2,500 members. You could easily hit that today. When you're that close, when you're only a couple hundred members away, those are the best days to push. I gift as soon as I can. You know, we hit a couple hundred members today. I have to end up gifting, that'll be another 40 from me. So, Brian M with 14 months says, I won't be buying stocks and shares in confetti. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. I really, really hope that I get halfway through the game and I'm like, you know what? I don't like that I have to play it on a PC. I don't like that I have to kind of like go back on what I expected from the Series X, but I'm really, really hoping and praying that it's still just a good game, right? The silver lining is that they focused so much on production that we do get a great story and we do get great acting and audio and all of that. It's just, I don't know how you do that if the combat and the fast action sequences feel bad. I don't know how you do that if the feel of the game, it has to be good. It has to be pristine. Yo, one from Joker Quinn. Thanks so much for coming in. That's 11 members on the day. I couldn't believe it. I thought about it this morning, and I went and I looked, and I was like, you know what? I swear the first trailer said that this game was built for the Series X, and sure enough, right there in the description of the first game. So I was like, I'm screenshotting this because they'll probably go edit the description. We know that Xbox likes to like erase history of their marketing. So I screenshotted it and I tweeted it. I was like, yeah, go ahead and edit the description now. This game so clearly wasn't built for the Xbox Series X. It isn't. There's no way. You'll never convince me that they built this game for Series X. No. You wouldn't be targeting the things you're targeting if you were building it for the Series X. You wouldn't. You would have prioritized the Series X, which means you would have done many, many different things with your creative decisions and your lighting and everything. There's literally no way that is true. Coffee order came in during the monologue as well. 3 bags of dark roast to Rygen. Thank you so much, Rygen. Guys, don't forget, if you're a coffee drinker, this is not a sponsor. Go to reforgeroast.com, and when you order it, my wife and kiddos will ship it to you. You get a little thank you note from my kiddos. It is such a great way to support the channel because you get something in return. They also said that the first trailer was in-engine. In-engine doesn't mean anything. In-engine doesn't mean anything. Do you know how much you can do in-engine? That doesn't mean it's raw gameplay. They had somebody in their audio team claim that trailer where they're on the beach, they claim that was raw gameplay. I'm like, you are a freaking liar. There is absolutely no way. I'll go to the grave and never believe that was raw gameplay. If that was raw gameplay, it was on a computer that didn't even exist back then. Like, there's no way. There is absolutely no way they got that level of performance and fidelity out of an Xbox. Certainly not. You're not getting that out of a console. We don't have games right now that look and perform like that beach scene. There's no way. I called it then. I was like, that's not gameplay. A 5-bomb from Behemoth. And you know what everybody said back then? They said, oh, the Unreal 5 engine, man, we're not ready. We're not ready for what the Unreal 5 engine's going to be able to do. Really? Really? Look at what it's doing. Look how Lords of the Fallen runs. Look how Immortals of Avium runs. Get out of here. If you think that trailer on the beach and the cave with the giant, if you think that's raw gameplay, I have about 18 bridges to sell you because there is absolutely no way that is raw gameplay. No. They would have said running on the Series X and not in engine. That's exactly right. Does it even say at the beginning of the trailer? Does it even say? Let's see. Gameplay reveal, official trailer. Which one is it called? Yeah, the beach scene is literally called gameplay reveal. They label this is titled gameplay reveal. There's no way this is real, raw gameplay. Have you guys seen anything like this in the latest gameplay? Have you seen anything like this in the previews? I sure haven't. I haven't seen anything close to this in the new footage. There's not a millisecond of the new footage that looks like this. Even when she's walking by herself on the beach in the latest trailer, it doesn't look like this. Look at the scope of this. Look at the size of this area. It didn't say anywhere on the screen, did it? That it was, no. Nowhere on there does it say anything. Down here it says, debuted at the Game Awards 2021. Watch the Senua Saga Hellblade 2 gameplay reveal. Coming exclusively to Xbox and Windows PC. Captured in-game by the development team. I don't believe. I'm telling you that's a lie. It says it in the description, captured in-game by the development team. I don't frickin' believe that for a second. This is not how the game is going to look and run on your Xbox Series X, and if you get it to run and look like this on your PC, you got an absolute monster. There's no way this is playing on a console. There's too much going on. The previews now are one-on-one fights, super small contained areas. They're using like fog and stuff to limit the render distance. Look at the size of this area and what's going on. There's a giant, literally a giant man in the background just there, all the way on the other side of the cave. In-game on their 4090. This is a 3-year-old trailer. Not a 3-year-old trailer. I'm sorry. It was December of last year. This is a 2-year-old trailer. This is not... I'm telling you. That's why I said, I almost regret defending the trailer with, like, the red light combat sequences. Right? I almost regret defending that because people are like, oh, it looks bad. It looks bad. I was like, I don't think it looks bad. I thought the trailer with the red combat sequences looked good. I did. I thought that actually looks pretty good. I didn't think it was evidence that they had stripped the entire game down. There ain't no way from the reports and the breakdowns that we got from Digital Foundry, there ain't no way that this is how it's going to run. If this sequence is even in the game. I don't even know if that sequence is going to be in the game. It seems too big based on everything that we're hearing now. That was December of 2021. So that was 2 years and 4 months ago. 2 years and 4 months ago. Almost two, so about 2.5 years old. There's nothing complex going on here. Homie. Compare this to the stuff that we're seeing now. Compare what you're about to see to anything we've seen now. That is an enormous, like, physical object in the game, lit on fire, crashes down. All these other NPCs are in the area, and now she's going to run outside with them. I am telling you. It will not look like this. There's literally no way. If it looks like this, it'll be on PC only. If it's not in the game, it'll be destroyed on the internet. Yeah, like if this isn't actually a sequence in the game. Can you imagine? Like, how are they going to pull this off? Based on everything we've seen. One-on-one fights, corridors, small circular areas. Look at the reflections in the water as she's running. Like, get out of here, bro. Get out of here. This is a cutscene. This isn't gameplay. It quite literally says, Sven, gameplay reveal. This is meant... You're meant to think that this is gameplay. You're meant to think that this is gameplay. It says captured in-game by the development team. I don't know what that means. This is the Order 1886 all over. Beautiful graphics with a short campaign. And it's very specific and on rails. Look at the number of characters she's interacting with. Picking up, running past. She runs past 1, 2, 3 through fire. She's run past 3 to 5 guys. There's another 5 or 6 behind her. Picking up more spears. And now we're being told, oh, it's one-on-one fights. And everything we've seen, it's like her and like 1, maybe 2 other enemies in proximity. She's interacting with that spear. This is meant to be gameplay. You're meant to think that this is gameplay. Oh my word. Did I miss a gifted? Hang on. We should have 17 on the board. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Joker. Behemoth with the 5 bomb and Risic with another one takes us to 17. We're super close to 25 members already, guys. Keep it going. Keep the member train going. We're trying to get to 2,500 members this week. You guys hit 2,300 last week, which means you get a rage game this Friday night. You'd say it's a QuickTime event? I don't even know. Eugene. It doesn't feel like a QuickTime. Well, yeah, I mean, it could be a QuickTime event where you're not in control. You get to, like, grab the spears and aim them, I guess. Maybe. I just want to know why they're bullying this poor giant. Yeah, he wasn't doing anything. He was just sleeping in his cave, you know? Why do we need Alan Turing to decipher every Xbox game being shown? Right, like, I feel like that's my frustration is, I said it in the show open. The player is throwing the spears. We were told that that was raw gameplay. I believe it was somebody from the audio team, Eugene. So I don't know if anybody would refer to a QuickTime event as raw gameplay. We'll obviously wait, and when the game comes out, we'll know if that sequence is even in the dadgum game. I wouldn't be surprised if that sequence isn't in the game, and they just turn it into a cutscene. They just show you a cinematic of that happening. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Because if you go to this trailer, everything feels completely in. This says in-game footage, okay? So now we're getting very different language. This is in-game footage captured on the Xbox Series X. So you're going to notice nothing really in front of her other than water, right? Very limited scope of view here. She's just on like a beach. I actually think she looks more grounded in this trailer, okay? Once again, tons of fog and render distance has been shortened significantly. Look, nice little contained area. The whole vibe has changed, in my opinion. It does not feel like it's going to be, this again just feels like the first game. I don't have a problem with that, by the way. I'm totally okay with it being within the scope of the first game. But that trailer on the beach communicated, we're blowing the doors off this game. You've not seen anything yet. You had one of the guys do an interview in 2021, and he said Hellblade 2 was going to make Hellblade 1 look like an indie game. Right? Look at how contained it is now. One fight. Okay, there's an NPC that tackles an enemy. It's all so cramped and small, and I don't have a problem with that. Much of the first game feels this way. A $10 super chat tip from Silent Spartan. I think the game will be good. It's giving me Order 1886 vibes. Everyone was up in arms about that game back in the day. Ended up being a phenomenal experience, a criminally underrated game. I mean, that's obviously subjective to you. Plenty of people thought that the Order 1886 wasn't even a good game as a video game. They thought it was like a tech demo, like it showed off graphics. You know, Rise Son of Rome was very short and really wasn't the greatest game, but it showed off graphics. It was an indie game, though. It was. I think people really praise the first Hellblade, though, as being like, it seemed like it hit above its weight class. It did. It was a small team that had a lot of moxie. They were very, very inventive and creative with how they told the story. I thought what they did with the first game was absolutely brilliant, giving the player a feeling of psychosis through the audio, through the storytelling, through the voice acting. It was absolutely remarkable. The only fable on Series X is the power narrative. Yeah, it's kind of feeling that way. Xbox fans saying Miles Morales was a short game. This DLC called Hellblade 2 is even shorter. I mean, all those narrative points break down, dude. You just like playing super slow, third-person movie games. I mean, that's literally what Hellblade 2 is going to be. That's literally what it's going to be. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that because the first game was a wonderful blend of immersive cinematic storytelling with a great, very creative narrative, but it also had satisfying combat. It also had satisfying puzzles. Like, it also had variety within the environments, and one minute you're in like a creepy forest, and the next minute you're in a place that constantly is letting on fire, and the next minute you're in hell itself. Like, I thought they did a very good job. The one time you're in like almost like it feels like you're in almost like a castle. They did a very, very good job with the first game. I would not have been angry if Hellblade 2 was very much just Hellblade 2. I would have been totally fine with that. I thought Xbox said that they would be more transparent about what they were showing with stuff like this. Like the Redfall stuff was bad. It was all on Steam for the B-roll. Right, Hilly, I appreciate the fact that the latest trailer that's 4 months old, I appreciate the fact that they told us, yeah, this is on a Series X. I appreciate that. That trailer where they're on the beach and they fight the guy in the cave, I don't know what that is, but that is not on a Series X. There is absolutely no way. With how much they've pushed graphics and lighting and how much they've had to shrink down the areas and how much they've had to rein in, you know, the rendering distance with and all this fog, like everything feels very contained. I don't believe that for a second. I don't. That trailer on the beach is a lie. It's like the cake in Portal. It's just not real. I don't trust it. Every instinct in me at the time said, this isn't real. This is too good to be true. This looks fully rendered. We've been watching trailers for how long now as gamers? And I'm like, yeah, I'm that woman on that plane. I'm like, that mother blanker right there ain't real. I'm like, that's not real. We've done this before. We've been here before. We've watched trailers enough. Like your gut instinct, you have a sixth sense as a gamer. You're like, I don't know. We went through this with the day before. We went back and we looked at those trailers of the day before, and I'm like, that's not real. Like, I know what real raw gameplay looks like. There's intangibles that you just sense. You can feel it. You're like, that's not, no. And we all knew it. We all knew it when we looked at those day before trailers, and we knew their reaction. We knew their reaction. We're like, if you were being accused of making a fake game, you wouldn't just calmly react. You wouldn't do that. You would not do that. Those guys would have strongly came out and defended their game. Right now with Hellblade 2, they let people play the game for like an hour or less, 40 minutes to an hour. And the amount of footage that we're seeing, there's very little new footage coming out. Very little in comparison to what we already have. And again, if you look at the new footage coming out and you compare it to the footage on the beach and you compare it to one of the earlier trailers, we're like, no, so much has changed. It's so cliche that it hurts. First trailer blows everybody's mind. There's no way a game's going to look like that. Oh, no, yeah. In 2019, we made all these assurances about the game and about hardware. Next trailer comes out. Ain't no way that's possible. There's no way that's gameplay. Oh no, Lono. Oh no, you don't. Unreal 5. Unreal 5 is going to really deliver greatness. And now what do we get? We get a pile of excuses about, well, it's Unreal 5 and Unreal 5 is really heavy and it's really taxing. So virtually no game in Unreal 5 looks that good. Or I'm sorry, runs that well. They couldn't capture their own footage? I don't think so. I think they were given B-roll. I could be wrong on that. We might want to fact check that. The recent batch of previews, I don't know if they went in and captured their own footage. It sounded like they were able to go in and play for the one outlet played for like 40 minutes. I was a defender of UE5, not so much. Well, I've been given assurances. I mean, John Linneman from Digital Foundry, he seems to think that we're going to get further into UE5's usage and it's going to get better. He actually seems to think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he seems to think, well, actually, no, let me connect the dots here. You could formulate a theory right now based off of John Linneman's feedback to me about the Coalition and how good they are with UE5. And you could combine that with what Jez Corden said. One of the lead people at the Coalition is now basically in charge of helping all of the other developers get as good as they are with Unreal 5. So you could formulate a theory that Unreal 5 is going to get better. Maybe they could even do an update for Hellblade 2 down the line with the Coalition itself. I don't know. Did you see my last tweet? Oh, I don't know, Doc. Which one? The one about 30 and how they're like, oh, just switch to PC, have the option. It's like, well, they're okay with. It was something about like they're okay with not having options or something. Your repeated and enthusiastic praise for it makes me want to just buy it at whatever the current full price is. Oh, for the first Hellblade? The first Hellblade with headphones is quite literally the single greatest gaming experience that I have had. It checks, it simultaneously checks so many boxes. Do you know how sitting in the theater during Avengers Endgame and how there's this simultaneous cocktail hitting you where it's 10 years, it's the culmination of all these storylines, it's people that you've grown to love, it's characters that you've grown to love, the music, the special effects, all of it hits you at once. That's Hellblade 1. Hellblade 1 hits you from every possible angle. They mess with your mind, the audio stimulation, the visual, the story. You get emotionally entangled with it. You don't really know what's going on. It's mysterious, it's macabre, it's sad, it's disturbing, it's interesting. It is the most complete game as art in existence. Nothing, I mean nothing in the market comes close to the first Hellblade. I believe that. I would get up on a podium and debate anybody about that. There are almost no games that come close to the level of, if you're making a game as art, because there's a message in the game. There's a level of importance in the first game. There's so much in Hellblade 1. It checks so many boxes. And the fact that this next game, they're like, well, lighting and facial this and mocap that. I'm like, oh no. That's called losing the plot. That's called losing the plot, man. Like, that's not the... What are we doing? Like, how is that the point? That's not what you're supposed to be doing. Doc Dark says the people that say 30 FPS is okay, and then they tell you that they have a PC to play at 60 if they wish. They have the option, so they don't care if they have the option. Kind of messed up. Right, well, I mean, Doc, the discussion about that, I think the reason it gets tiring is I think there are very few people telling the truth. Right? Have you ever dealt with a person that you never know if they're telling the truth? You never know if they're telling the truth, and it's exhausting to interact with them. Right? Because you're like, I don't know if this is true or not. Like, they're always lying. Okay? The discussion about 30 FPS, let's just make a pie chart in our mind. I think like a teeny slice. I think there's about 10% of the people talking about that who believe and genuinely feel like 30 FPS is not a big deal. The other 90%, they're all liars. They are liars. Because if the situation was reversed and their platform had a bunch of first-party titles at 60 and the other platform had a bunch of first-party titles at 30, they'd be making an issue out of it because they're a liar. I'm telling you right now, that discussion about 30 FPS, it's okay, it's more cinematic. 90% of the people engaging in that conversation are just bad faith frauds. They don't mean what they say. They don't believe what they say. There's like 10% of the people that genuinely don't care. They've either played at 30 or quality mode for so long, maybe their TV's old, maybe they haven't really upgraded anything, and they genuinely don't care. And God love those people, but thank goodness they're becoming the minority because the rest of us want 60. The rest of us want 60. So that's why that conversation is just exhausting. I don't even want to engage in it with people anymore. Because like half the time you're just dealing with a liar. It's like you don't even believe that. We're just calling people that we disagree liars. Yes, that's a great summary of what I just outlined and said. That's fantastic. You should write Cliff's Notes for books. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. What's it about? Two depressed teenagers that end their lives. Like, that's great. That'd be such a great summary of that masterpiece. I'm literally saying that the people that hand wave 30 FPS this generation, I actually do think that most of them are not telling the truth. I think that they're lying. They're just engaging in like a console war. OG Omar with 24 months says, is John's position based on the advancements from UE5 to 5.3? I've wondered if they have ported Hellblade 2 over from 5.0 to the faster versions that followed later. I don't know if they can even do that. I don't know how any of that works. I don't even know how any of that works. After getting my PS5, it's kind of hard to go back to 30 FPS, so having the option is better. I'm not saying everybody that disagrees. I'm specifically talking about the people who say 30 FPS is fine, it's more cinematic, you shouldn't expect 30 FPS from this console. I don't think most of them are telling the truth. I think they're just dealing in cliches and talking points that they've heard, and they don't truly believe that. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't be saying that. That's why you know it's not true. Do you honestly expect me to believe? Do you expect me to believe the crowd that criticized Final Fantasy XVI for upscaling instances in the icon fights? Do you expect me to believe that the crowd that criticized Returnal for having an internal resolution at 1080 that's upscaled? Do you expect me to believe that that crowd is okay with 30 FPS? They just suddenly aren't worried about that kind of a thing? Get real. Get real, dude. You're going to zoom in on every game from the other side of the fence, criticize every moment, every misstep, every stutter, every hitch, but then your console gets another 30 FPS game. Not a big deal. It's cinematic. It's really pretty. They wave their hands so much, it's like they're like, I don't even know, they're like an animatronic robot in a parade. It's like hand wave, hand wave, hand wave. Please, sir, may I have some more, sir? I don't care what the quality is. I don't care what you promised us. You could have promised me 4K 120 and you can give me 1080 30 because I'm a sucker. Just give me more. It just doesn't matter. It's not worth engaging in the discussion. They're never, ever, ever going to like actually come to the table and be honest about the topic. You're wasting your time. Doc says, you're 100% correct. You can tell me you don't care about frames and then tell me you have a PC in all three consoles. You got the PC for better performance. They lie. I agree. Right. Like I said, Doc, there's very few people that I believe because they're like, they go for the better performance. You never talked about PS5 30 FPS games? It's hard to talk about things that don't exist. What PlayStation 5 30 FPS games are you talking about? Lay them out there, brother. It's going to take you approximately 0 seconds to type that list out because there are no first-party PlayStation games at 30. There are PlayStation game first-party games where you can choose between 30 and 60 because, you know, that's what we were hoping to get from virtually every game that's coming out right now. So quickly, rapidly, type out those games. Capcom... What? Is Capcom a game? What are you talking about? Everybody slow down. He might actually think that PlayStation owns Capcom. Eugene says, last night we literally had a community member who was a staunch 30 FPS defender. He finally tried a game at 60, and he finally understood. That's what I'm saying. Once you experience it, you can't go back. Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights is not a PlayStation game. It's a third-party game. It was crappy everywhere. Like, I don't think anybody has ever tried to argue that the PlayStation 5 is a magic wand. That, like, if a third-party multi-plat game launches and is 30 FPS everywhere, I don't have, like, a button on the front of my PlayStation I can push. It's like, give me the 60. Like, I said PlayStation first-party games. Capcom, not a first-party developer for PlayStation. And Gotham Knights, I dumped all over that game and got criticized for it and got hate for it. And that is also not a PlayStation first-party game. That was a third-party multi-plat game, and it ran like garbage everywhere. As I said, you simply cannot list PlayStation first-party games that are stuck at 30. It's not possible. Yeah, and I have entire shows about Gotham Knights at 30. What a joke. Dragon's Dogma at 30. What a joke. I don't care who makes the game. I don't care who makes the game. Doesn't matter to me. If you make a game in this era of time and you cap your game at 30, I'm going to the corner of the room and I'm grabbing Lucille and I'm going to wail on your game for it because it's a joke. It's not a creative decision. It's a stupid decision. You don't benefit from it. This is old thinking. This is ancient, archaic thinking of, well, it's okay. It's okay. Listen, I like Todd Howard. He's a dinosaur. In that interview where he talks about how if everything's running well and the simulation's running well, we're okay with 30 FPS, that's fine. You literally sound like a fossil. You don't sound like anything that's relevant today. That's like 10-year-old, 15-year-old thinking. You got people in charge that think that that's okay. And it's like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? How can Hellblade 2 be one of the initial flagship games for the Xbox Series X and be 30 FPS? Go back and watch the Project Scarlet marketing and the Xbox Series X marketing. If you want to watch the video where they talk about the Series X and the Series S, you got to watch it on IGN because Xbox set the video to private because it's full of lies. So go back and watch those trailers. And Hellblade 2 was quite literally one of the first games promoted as a flagship Series X title, and it's at 30 FPS. Reconcile that with everything we were promised 4 years ago. It's an outdated way of thinking. Well, we turn the graphics up, so, 30 FPS, it's more cinematic. No, it's not. It doesn't look good. It looks blurry. There's frame persistence. The frames are on the screen longer. Because the frames are on the screen longer, you got to use things like motion blur, or you're going to see artifacting. You're going to see weird behavior in the game. You got to rein in the draw distance. You got to use things like fog. You got to limit what the game is actually even able to do. One-on-one fights instead of group fights. Lono will suck GTA 6 up? No. It's always fun when someone speaks for me and they're so incredibly wrong. No, I will not. If you honestly think I'm going to buy GTA 6 and just gobble it up if it's at 30 FPS, you'd have zero clue who you're talking to. I'm making one exception to the 30 FPS rule, and I'm making it for Hellblade because I'm crossing my fingers I can get it at a good performance consistency on my PC. Because I love Hellblade so much, I'm willing to do that. I didn't do that with Dragon's Dogma 2, which probably wouldn't have been able to get consistent performance out of it because it's a horribly optimized game. Everyone defends Dragon's Dogma 2. Yes, let's defend a game where the developers did a bad job. That's great, yeah. 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, Game of the Year frontrunner, and it's horribly optimized. CPU bottlenecked, 30 FPS on next-gen consoles. Woohoo! Put them up on the stage, everybody. How far our standards have fallen that we're going to go from, Sekiro and The Last of Us Part 2 and Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 to, if that game wins Game of the Year, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing if that game wins. He's complaining about the sequel of his favorite game of all time, and you think he'll defend a 30 FPS GTA 6. Yeah, I now have 2 live streams about the sequel to my all-time favorite game, where I am being extremely negative, and you think I'm going to give a hoot and a holler about GTA 6? Homie, my backlog is taller than me. I know that's not hard, but it is. My backlog is taller than me. Do you think I'm going to give GTA 6 an ounce of my attention? I have so many games that I want to play, and it's really weird. Every single one of them have the same thing in common. None of them are 30 FPS games. None of them. Not a single one. There are indie games I would rather play, like Death's Door. I have a much better time with a game like that than some 30 FPS slop. I don't care. Like, if you get to the point where your standard is here, everything below just gets ignored. It's like, why would I mess with that? GTA 6 will have a 1080 60 and a 1440 for the PS5 Pro? Yeah, maybe. I think people... Listen, I'm on record as saying that I think people are jumping the gun on GTA 6 and their predictions. I think people are jumping the gun. I do. This whole argument of like, well, the other day we talked about Gears, and everyone was like, oh, no, Gears will be 60 because they updated Gears to be like, what, 60, 120? They gave you like a 120 mode? They won't walk that back. Okay, well, GTA 5 got updated to 60 FPS. They're going to walk that back? Xbox hypothetically going in on indies looks a hell of a lot better, doesn't it? I don't know, Kirk. They're not doing the AAA thing very well right now, are they? You'll literally be the one person out of millions who doesn't play GTA. Okay. I'm one person out of millions that doesn't do a lot of things. Is that how you live your life? That's not how I live mine. Like, are you suddenly a big Taylor Swift fan too? Because millions of people are? Like, I love Tay-Tay, but I don't have any merch. I didn't go to any of the concerts. Millions of people did. She's like a global sensation right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to go to the concerts, buy the merch, and learn the songs. And I love Tay-Tay. I got a lot of respect for her. I think she gets unnecessary hate. But I'm not going to the concerts. I can look from afar, and I can respect and appreciate GTA 6 and everything that it attempts to do, but if it's 30 FPS, I'm not wasting a minute of my time on it. I don't care. I have so many other games to play. Put on a shirt that says I don't play GTA 6. What's the point of playing? It's clear you've already made up your mind about Hellblade 2 and can't wait to complain about it when it comes out. It's clear that you don't listen. And it's also clear that you didn't listen to the show open. You know? Like, I literally said in the show open that there's a big silver lining. The entire last section of the monologue is, I think the story will be great. I think the voice acting will be great. I think the acting will be great. I think the writing will be great. I think the audio will be superb. Why am I confident in all those things? Well, they've made it very clear that they heavily focused on production. Heavily focused on production. And I believe that heavy focus on production is going to make sure that the story, voice acting, audio, all of that is going to be very, very good. So if I can get consistent performance on my PC, I am praying that I get to say, I was wrong. This is a great game. I feel bad for the people who got it on their Xbox. I feel bad. I literally ended my monologue saying that. Like, I almost didn't do this show because of how much I want the game to be good. And I don't like doing a show that feels like a hit piece, but it's unavoidable sometimes. Like, the more I read, I pulled up that Eurogamer article, and everything, the more I read, the further down I went. It's like I got sadder and sadder. You know, it was like, this is all of the stuff that I don't want to hear. This is all of the stuff that I absolutely do not celebrate when a game developer goes down this road. A single gift that comes in from Stonespire and takes us to 18. And a 5-bomb from Risic takes us to 23 out of 25. And Heatwave renews for 7 months. Thank you so much, Heatwave. Lono, haven't bought no 30 FPS game or SCR game this generation, but I'll buy Halo Series X just for backwards compatibility and Game Pass to play older games. I mean, If you're the type of consumer that likes that, yes, the Series X is actually great for that. FPS boost made some of those games look just absolutely phenomenal. Sure. You and I are not the same. I don't buy a next-gen console. When everyone's like, PlayStation's just really missing the mark, just not letting us play, these old PlayStation games. And I was like, who the frick cares about that? I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut. I'm playing 2018 God of War with an update, Spider-Man with an update. I'm playing a brand new game called Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Like, I wasn't like, dude, I can't wait to go back there and play those PS3 games. Like, that's not me. If that's you, I'm not making fun of you, but I would never spend $500 to play old games. We are not the same if that's what you did. If that's what you did, great. I hope you got your money's worth, but I would never do that. There it is, Stone Spire with another one. I remember consistently having this debate with guys. I'd be like, where are all the great games? Where's all the performance? And the Xbox guys would be in here, and they'd be going hard in the paint. Doing what? Listing old games. FPS boost to them was that made good on the promise. Well, I can play a game from 5 years ago at 120 and 4K and 6. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that when I was buying the Series X, I was buying a remaster machine. Everybody gets, upset and angry about The Last of Us Part 1 remake and The Last of Us Part 2 remaster. It's nothing but remasters and remakes. Yeah, well, a whole bunch of you did nothing but celebrate, essentially, a remaster machine the first 2 years the box was out. Because that was the only real thing that was hitting good performance thresholds, because nothing else was going on. Gifted member from Stone Spire takes us to 25. I owe you guys 5. I'm going to do it right away. And then I'll give you guys a member count. You were like 2250 when I got up this morning. I think for the next week, we won't be having big drops. We should be able to maintain some membership momentum here. Why are embeds suddenly not working? That's good. That's good, Eugene. That's a good tweet. I hope GTA 6 is 60. I don't get where all the GTA 630 talk is coming from. We've seen a short cinematic trailer. And the Agent of Chaos is Patrick Q. He pushes us past 25. And now the next goal is 50. If we hit 50, I'll give another 5. That's why we roll it forward. Every 25, I give 5. Back to you guys. And let me give you a total count here. OJ died? Really? That's weird. I wonder if anybody cares. 2279. 2279. That's where the current member count is. I just want options, man. Options. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Like, when you boot up a game like that on the PC, it's like you can go in and customize all those things. You can turn down this, you can turn down that, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure his family and loved ones care. I mean, I don't know why I would care. It's like a super not nice person. Who cares? That's a single gifted from Joker Quinn. Thank you very much. Somebody mentioned Colt Eastwood tweeting something. I believe he's got a video about a leak about the next piece of hardware. So I don't know where the leak came from. It's like I'm holding off on like an Xbox hardware stream. I'm just holding off because we got like an article where everybody got really excited because Sarah Bond said the same thing that she said at the podcast, and like everybody's acting like this is news. And they're also changing what they're also changing what she did. How come you didn't do 1-for-1 on membership? 1-for-1 on membership? What are you talking about? She didn't say anything about a console, but all of the hardwares... I'm sorry. All the hardwares. All of the articles are saying console. Like, I don't know why they're doing that, because all they're going to do is set up everybody for frustration and disappointment. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Xbox podcast hits. She says the next generation of hardware will be the biggest technical leap or whatever. Lono, oh, he thinks I should gift a member for every member? What? Why would I do that? I gift 5 every 25. Let me get this straight. You can't possibly be asking that genuinely. You're goofing around, right? He had to be goofing around. He couldn't be serious. Like, every time I get a member, I gift a member. And I make no money. It's wonderful. It's a tax scam. I'll get it all back. I'll get it all back on the back end. I'll make it up. We'll make it up in volume. Oh my golly. Anyways, she said hardware, and then they've got an email where she said hardware again. They're all like console, console, console. She didn't say console, bro. I think he assumes it doesn't cost you anything to you specifically. Oh no, I actually spend my own money. No, yeah, that hits every time I do that. That's hitting my credit card. Every single time. I gifted like over 4,000 members last year. E-beggar, like right, yeah, I think I would go in the hole, Abe. You get a member. You get a member. Everybody gets a member, dude. Nobody's going without a membership today. Well, anyways, you guys are close to 2,300. Get it back to that 2,300. Our goal for the week's 2,500 members. You guys can do it. Yeah, Lono's coffee is free as well. Oh, man. What were we talking about? Oh. I would bet money that I'll get hate and clipped for not caring that OJ died. People are going to be so ravenous to hate me. They're like, can you believe that he doesn't care about this? What? What a world do we live in? Imagine going into a streamer and telling the streamer, not sure on the show. No. He didn't tell me I should. He said, why? I think he asked, why don't you? Or maybe something like that. I don't know. Let's see how much money we can make Lono lose. Gift those subs, boys. He'll be bankrupt by the end of the week. OJ cared about 60 FPS. Yeah, he was a staunch defender of 60 FPS. You know, that's really the reason he committed the murder. They were having a debate about 30 and 60, and he had had enough. You know, he had had enough. 5 months from Alex Mercer, the prototype, says, never played the first Hellblade game, but now I'm interested because of your passion in the game really shows. Gonna try it out on Game Pass. Get it, dude. Get it. I'm gonna grab lunch in a bit. I'm gonna demand BOGO on everything. Looking at some of the 30, 60 FPS games on the PS5, the hit on resolution is barely noticeable, and in some instances it looks cleaner. I mean, while your BS and OJ's gloves were clearly 30 FPS, that's probably why they didn't fit, you know? If it's not 60 FPS, you must quit. I genuinely think that most of the people that get all up in arms about, I had somebody do this on a tweet recently, or maybe it was on a comment. I can't remember. It's all a blur. Like, all the different shades of stupidity kind of blur together. And this guy was like, you want your performance modes where the resolution looks bad and the image looks blurry and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I could only think that someone that thinks that, someone that argues that, is likely looking at screenshots on Reddit and looking at screenshots on Twitter. You get like the absolute worst screenshot that you can get. And you're like, it's blurry. It's like, no, it's not. You could, yes, of course, you could get in a giant icon fight in Final Fantasy 16 and take one screenshot from one instance at the worst possible time, and the rest of the game, it doesn't do that. And you're like, yeah, that's what the game looks like. Like, I think people genuinely believe, like, they see those screenshots on Twitter, you know, on Reddit or whatever, and they're convinced, they're like, yep, that game is blurry all of the time. And they come to you and they talk like that, and you're like, what are you talking about? They've probably never played the game. It's like people that'll come to you and tell you, well, Returnal's 1080. And it's like, oh, yeah, you read a tweet, didn't you, from a blogger pretending to be a journalist, right? These guys that aren't journalists, they're just bloggers, right? They're just content creators. That's all they are. They're no different than the rest of us. They just have outlets that have established themselves in the gaming market so people think that they're trustworthy and respectable. And it's like, no, Returnal's at 1080. No, you don't understand what upscaling is. You read a tweet, and now you're going to run around and say that. It becomes headcanon. It becomes headcanon. It's like, oh, no, yep, Returnal's 1080, Final Fantasy 16's blurry. It's like, and it's just, you're never going to win when their information is so poisoned. It's like the conversation's dead from the very beginning. It's dead from the very beginning. All their information is poisoned. Yo, Alulaid Ani? I'm going to call you Ani. Thank you, Ani, for renewing your membership. Welcome back. Yeah, Brett in our Discord, Brett said, I will play 60 FPS from now on because even the graphics still look good. Right, because again, if you actually look at just the screenshots, that's what you're going to run with. You're going to be like, oh, but if I turn on performance mode, it's going to look blurry and bad. And it's like, you're looking at a single screenshot in the middle of an insane fight that you're not going to notice unless you're actively looking for it. Like, on average, when you're in a game and the game is moving and it's fast and there's explosions and all these sounds going on and you're like, oh, this is awesome. You're not like, wait a minute, did the resolution internally just drop a little bit for that 1 millisecond whenever... No, you saw a video. Well, no, somebody saw a video, intentionally paused it, got a screenshot, put it on Twitter and said, yeah, here you go. And they falsely represent the game. And people who aren't astute enough to know that becomes their headcanon. So when it comes to Hellblade 2, it wouldn't surprise me at all if a bunch of the people that are like, oh, it's totally fine that it's 30 FPS because performance just absolutely kills everything. It makes it look gross and it makes it look blurry, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's going to be blurry by default. They have to employ all these methods to the resolution even drops. It's not even like it's like a constant 4K game. The resolution results we're hearing from the analysis from Digital Foundry, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's not even going to be maintaining like a high resolution the whole time. It's at certain points, 1440 and dropping below that, like what are we even doing here? Down in the 1080 realm? What? But again, that's going to be tough to convince somebody who has been convinced by way of screenshots that performance mode would have made it look blurry and bad. If you got used to looking at 4K or upscale 4K, below 1080 looks bad. I don't know if that's even true, though. Because if you're running, a lot of the 4K modes are upscaled. They're not native. The vast majority of the 4K modes are upscaled. So you're not even looking at a genuine, like, native 4K image. You're looking at an internal image that's probably 1440, upscaled to 4K, and then it's 30 FPS, which means you're not getting this, like, whenever you move, you're not seeing all those details. They blur. Frame persistence is going to take place, which makes the image blur, and then they're going to have to use motion blur to smooth everything over. So the idea that like, oh, but if I switch to performance mode and then it's internally, 1080 upscale to 1440, I'm going to notice. And I'm like, maybe when you're standing still, yes. But once you're actively playing the game, no. I think it's incredibly hard to notice these things. Your TV typically does upscaling as well. It would have been fine if Microsoft and their hardcore supporters weren't constantly chirping about the Series X being 4K 120 that eats monsters for breakfast. Well, I mean, in my personal opinion, just as a consumer, if I wasn't even a YouTuber, but I was on Twitter and I watched YouTube videos and, I tracked the coverage of this. I was a main stage host at E3 2019. I was sitting facing the stage and I watched the Project Scarlet marketing and I thought, this is going to be phenomenal, okay? So as a consumer, I would quite literally look at Xbox as a joke. I'm like, you're a joke. You lied to the public. You set a video to private on your own channel. Aaron Greenberg deleted his tweet about 60 FPS standard output up to 120. They don't respect you as a consumer. They don't. They tell you whatever they need to tell you. And then they just delete it if it doesn't turn out to be true. How many companies are doing that? Has Nintendo ever done this? Has PlayStation ever done this? Are they out here deleting tweets? Are they out here setting videos to private? They're a joke. Like, there's no niceties anymore. There's no nice way to talk about it. They're a joke. They didn't even attempt to make good on the promises of the marketing. And it's hard to even believe that the marketing was accidentally inaccurate. Unless they literally made all of the marketing about Series X and S just purely on projections. You literally watch it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. You guys couldn't have believed that this was going to happen. It's not even like they're close to it and fell short. They're not even close. They're not even in the hemisphere of what they promised. And the only thing you'll get now is people would say, well, all you're doing is bashing Xbox. I have a question for you. Why aren't you bashing them? Why aren't you bashing them? Aren't you angry? Aren't you dissatisfied? Like, I got extremely critical of Final Fantasy 16. Why? Because the marketing didn't line up with the product. It's that simple. It's extremely simple for me. It's like, you marketed this? Nope. Jedi Survivor. 9s and 10s from the review outlets. Game was not ready for market. I was heavily critical of that. Why? I was already worried. I was already worried when I heard Disney wanted a new Star Wars game every 6 months. I told y'all, I said, that sounds like a terrible idea. That's not how games come to market. Games should come to market when they're ready, not when some corporate, bigwig snaps his fingers and said, I want a new game every 6 months. No, that's not how games come to market. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care who it is. So it's like, my question is, why aren't you bashing them? You keep coming at me. Like, nobody here in chat's doing it. Most of the people who used to come in here and defend Xbox ardently, they stopped showing up. Because I was given assurances that games weren't coming to the other platforms, and now they are. I was given assurances that, we were going to get 60 FPS. I mean, do you guys remember the Starfield trailer? Oh, so-and-so said that Starfield 60 FPS. Do you remember that? Same so-and-so that said Redfall was good? Like, you should be also saying, this is not good. This is not what we were promised. This is not what was marketed. That's what the consumers ought to do. Like, consumers are not under some law or some imperative. Like, we don't have like the 10 commandments of the consumer, but there's this weird ideological thing happening where once you're committed to certain tenets, it's like you break from what the average consumer just does naturally. The natural inclination of consumers is that when such a thing is promised and then not delivered upon, that's a problem. That's a value proposition that was false. That is a common instance where the market then responds. And the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in gaming is this sort of, it's like when you're watching like a really, really bad offensive drive in football and they keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and they're like right in front of the goal line, like they're about to be safetied. You would never look at that and be like, they're doing a great job. like your confidence in them not getting safetied, if they're like, no, we're going to do one more run play, we're 4th and 26, but we're going to run one more run play, you'd see them line up for it. You'd be like, yep, this is a run play. I know this play. I know this formation. Your confidence would be so low. You'd be like, yeah, they're about to get saved. Yep, there it is, safety. And then the best hand signal in football, the two hands come up. It's like everything you hope for, everything we were supposed to get has gotten pushed back so far, further and further and further and further. And to the point that now, the second big game that I was looking forward to from Xbox, I am once again having to run to my PC. I had to do it with Starfield, and now I'm going to have to do it with Hellblade II. Some devs apparently also say they don't see a reason for a Pro and that the PS5's power still hasn't been wholly tapped into. GTA 6 might be the first game to do that while a PS5 Pro is there. Well, and that's where I always get a little confused, KTC. I saw a lot of people running with that headline, right? Hey, thank you. Another order of coffee. This was about an hour ago. I'm sorry I didn't shout this out. A bag of light roast. Somebody's first name starts with the letter J. Thank you so much for doing that. Everybody ran with that headline that like, oh yeah, what we don't need. Why do we need a PS5 Pro? Because we haven't even tapped into the full power of the PS5, right? And Porktoe, I'm going to approve your message. He says, oh geez, another crap on Xbox stream. Just play on PC like the rest of us. It's better for everything. I'm confused. What exactly should I do give me some guidance here. You apparently have a pretty strong opinion on my content. You've been around for a long time, too. So get in the ring instead of taking a cheap shot. You know, put your gloves up. I want to know what you think I should do when my most anticipated game of 2024, a game that was promoted in 2019 as being built for the Xbox Series X in the description of the announcement trailer, my all-time favorite game, Hellblade, the sequel to my all-time favorite game. What am I supposed to do when it gets announced that it's 30 FPS? And then, in the following week, when the trailer and the gameplay and the previews are broken down by Digital Foundry, it's literally everything that I dislike in gaming. What's your advice on what I should do? Not be authentic and true to myself and be quiet about it? Is that what I should do? Would that make you happier? Would you be happier and have a better day if I just was some grinning idiot that didn't tell you what I actually think? Like, I'm not going to ignore stuff like this, especially when it's Hellblade. I wouldn't. But dang, just play on PC? I'm going to, Porktoe. For somebody who wanted to, you know, get a little jab in, little cheap shot about another crap on Xbox stream. Okay, did you even watch the previous content? Did you even watch today's show? I am going to play on PC. Isn't that the problem? Just stop the crying? A whole show of crying? It's a whole show of crying. Why are you here then? I don't put words in your mouth, don't put them in mine. What do you mean? I didn't put words in your mouth. I quoted you. You said another game crapping on Xbox. You just got here for today's stream. I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised that you didn't have full information about my thoughts and about what I think on the subject and just went with the cheap shot. That's actually surprising that somebody would say something insulting about me in the show and the content and they're ignorant. That's so rare. Huh. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. You know? It really is. It really is remarkable that you're ignorant on my position. You didn't watch the opening monologue. You don't know my thoughts on the issue. And you decided to take a cheap shot and say, another stream crapping on Xbox. Stop feeding the trolls. He's not a troll. He's been around for a long time. He has a gold badge. I've been a worker lurker for years. What do you mean? Yeah, you've been a worker lurker for years, and what you said today was rooted in ignorance. Like, I could follow a sports team for 7 years, tune into the fourth quarter, and start trying to commentate on what happened and not have a clue. I miss one monologue and all of a sudden I'm ignorant? Well, you are today. The shoe fits. What you said was ignorant. This isn't a bash Xbox stream. It was about the disappointing new details that came from Hellblade 2 and how I am once again having to retreat to PC to play one of their titles. Which, by the way, how do you not see that as absolutely just like embarrassing for the brand that you're like, just play on PC? You bought a $500 console that once again is not making good on the marketing promises with your most anticipated game. Just just play it on PC and be quiet. A 10 spot from Lotus Esprit. For the haters, Swoozy with 7-1 says, what's crying is Xbox fans going on a campaign against any outlet that doesn't like their games. It's almost bullying or harassment to get people to say that they like them. I'll crap on the Bears when they screw up. I've been one of their fans for 10 years. So, Porktoe, you followed me for a really long time. What on earth did you think I was going to do with what we've learned about Hellblade 2? What did you think I was going to do? What do you think I should have covered instead? What? People are upset about the pricing of Star Wars Outlaws. Like, which I'll probably actually talk about Star Wars Outlaws on Monday with Kirk, because there's a ton of criticism already, not just about the pricing. There's other things going on as well. But I didn't feel like doing a show on the fact that people are angry about prices. Like, okay, what's new in video games? You know, not Kirk, what's new in video games? What's new in video games? Oh, people are angry about pricing. Oh, wow. People are angry about having planned DLC when a game came out. Wow. We've heard this all before, haven't we? That'd make for a riveting discussion. Digital Foundry said so many good things, but your whole show is negative. Again, why are you here? I'm genuinely curious. Why are you tuning into a show that apparently is just another this or just another that, or, you know, it's just a whole show that's negative? Why are you still here? Go watch something else then, right? Like, I don't think I've ever watched a show or a video and I'm like, well, yeah, this guy's just not saying what I want to hear right now, and just kept watching. Right? To be fair, it just seems like easy jabs for content. We definitely heard all this stuff when you first talked about Hellblade. Really? Really? We had an entire breakdown from Digital Foundry about the resolution. We didn't know what the resolution was. We were given assurances like, well, it'll probably be 4K 30 game. No, that's not true. No. It's not even performing that well. There's artifacting, there's blurring. We also did an analysis of everything that we're hearing from Digital Foundry and Eurogamer, and we compared it to the very first trailer when they were on the beach. So no, we didn't repeat everything that we said the other day. Everything I said the other day was purely focusing on 30 FPS, and then we got into a really lengthy debate about 30 versus 60 and why some people are okay with it and why some people are not okay with it, right? But today was about everything else. It was about how they're utilizing certain pieces of technology to maintain all of the pretty things. And it's like, well, it ain't going to look like that beach trailer, right? If you track the history of this game, and again, if you actually go back and you watch the opening coverage and you watch the opening monologue, instead of listening for 30 seconds and taking a cheap shot, you would see the analysis was completely different. It was like, look at everything that they showed us initially with that beach trailer. They go into the cave, they fight this big giant, I don't even know, this bald giant dude, and then they end up back outside. And now we're hearing that it's stripped down, it's narrow, it's linear, it's contained. And on top of that, we're not even getting the performance. In those instances, the resolution is dropping. How in the world do you think it's going to do on that beach scene, if the beach scene even makes it to the game? Yo, thank you, Hayasho, for upgrading to a standard membership. I also wrote probably a few new things, so don't worry. Like, Porkto, I was just pushing back on the notion that this was just like another Xbox bashing stream. Because when you talk like that, you just sound like the drooling morons on Twitter. You don't sound like somebody who's been around for a really long time. It's like, Lono really likes Hellblade. Lono's played Hellblade 3 times. Lono tells people that they should play Hellblade. He promotes it. He tells people it's one of the best games. It's one of the best experiences ever. And he's done one show on it. And then now he's doing another show a week later after Digital Foundry did a breakdown. And you are going to come in and say, oh, another Xbox bashing stream. Really? Did you like my show about Helldivers? Did you like my show about Star Wars Outlaws? Did you like those shows? Put a lot of time into those shows. Spent a lot of time live with the audience for those shows. Did you watch those? Did you enjoy those? What about my show on Stellar Blade or the PS5 Pro or Borderlands 4? The beach scene has to make it. There's no way it cannot. I'm telling you, what we're hearing from the previews and what we're hearing from Digital Foundry's analysis, I don't know how in the world they'll pull that beach scene off. I really don't. I really, truly don't. If you're stripping things down to contained areas and contained fights, and the resolution's dropping, and there's artifacting, there's blurring, there's image quality degradation, that's happening in like a small environment, how in the world are they going to pull off the beach scene? Like, how? Yeah, I did a Borderlands 4 video with Kirk. What was that? Was that last week? It was Monday. Was it this week? No. What did we talk about this week? I can't remember what we talked about this week. Oh, this week's show, Kirk and I put out ideas if we were the CEO of Xbox. I talked about, partnering with NVIDIA. He talked about doubling down on indies. You're just saying they have to include it? I don't know if they have to include it. I don't know. It to me looks like something from a completely different game at this point. It would be a disaster. A couple of years ago, if we were sitting here talking about like, oh, it's going to be 30 FPS, we would have said the same thing. That's going to be a disaster. And here we are. Here we are. The beach scene is CGI. No way it's gameplay. There's all kind of different theories. There's theories it's a quick time event. There's theories it's a cutscene. Somebody from their audio department claimed it was raw gameplay. Like it was somebody like actually playing their game, I was like, no, it's not. When this game comes out and sets a new graphical standard, it's going to be funny. Digital Foundry said it's a truly next-gen game. Digital Foundry can slobber on this game all they want. That's stuff that they like. It makes perfectly good sense for Digital Foundry to be like, oh my gosh, look at that. Oh my gosh, look at how good that looks. Who the heck cares if you're getting a bunch of degradation and you're getting artifacting and blurring and 30 FPS? Who cares how pretty it is? Like, you can go right now. You can go right now to YouTube, and there are tons of Unreal Engine 5 demos that you would never play or never enjoy. Why? Because it's not a game, it's demoing what the tech can do. So if Hellblade 2 walks into the market and puts on grand display, here's what you can do with this face technology. Here's what you can do with lighting. Here's what you can do with, textures and weather effects and water and reflections. And everyone's like, ooh, look how pretty it is. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't tune into the GDC and watch NVIDIA gush over what they're going to be doing and what this engine can do and what that engine can do. I don't care about any of that. I don't. I want to play a video game. And playing a video game, getting immersed in a video game means that the gameplay and the performance have to be good and they have to be consistent. Does anybody really care about, how pretty some of the stuff that we saw from like Immortals of Avium and Lords of the Fallen? Does anybody care about any of that when the games didn't run that well and had performance issues? Like, is anybody out here writing a review that's like, yeah, it runs pretty bad, but it sure is pretty? Like, that's not how we judge games. Ever. Like, we've never argued that way before. That like, well, it's okay because it's really pretty. Like, Xbox literally tweeted the other day that how a game plays is more important than how a game looks. And they had to delete the tweet because of the response they got. It's like you just announced a super pretty game that is going to have inferior performance. It's not going to perform where the Series X was supposed to land. What's up with Immortals? I played a few hours. It was cool, but no graphics setting whatsoever on my PS5. They're supposed to be pushing out like a pretty significant update, I thought, for Immortals. And I don't know if you've played since they pushed that out. They were doing something with FSR. Rise of the Ronin got criticized. I've criticized Rise of the Ronin very regularly, yes. The performance in the game, even though Kirk and I did a show where we said it was better than expected, I didn't walk back any of my criticisms about that game's performance. The performance is not good. It's shaky. It needed another 6, maybe 9 months of polish. They released it on the last day of their fiscal year, just like Dragon's Dogma 2. Both of those games are clearly not ready. They needed more time. Dragon's Dogma 2 is horribly optimized, and Rise of the Ronin is really, really stuttery and shaky in the open world and in the towns. And it's not a graphically strong game. It just isn't optimized very well. Yeah, the combat in Rise of the Ronin is the reason I kept playing. I was like, I can eat around the fact that when I'm moving through the open world or a town, it's pretty bad. It's not good. It's not as bad as Final Fantasy 16 is in a town or exploring, but it's bad. We're going to be playing Sea of Thieves beta tomorrow on PlayStation 5. That's why when someone comes at me and is like, oh, it's just another bashing Xbox stream, I get so tired of that. I did a stream about Stellar Blade. This is annoying, talking about how the fandom is making it like annoying to be a fan of the game. That's a PlayStation title. I was critical of Rise of the Ronin's performance. I've been consistently critical of Final Fantasy 16's performance. I've done Helldivers streams. I did streams about Kill the Justice League, how I was wrong about that. I did an entire stream about Xbox handheld and how I would actually like to see a really awesome handheld from them, especially if the Surface team is helping out with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, don't do this cherry pick nonsense where you ignore, like, sure, you could go to a restaurant and ignore 80% of the menu and be like, yeah, I guess all you guys serve here are sandwiches. And they'd be like, no, you're ignoring the rest of the menu. Well, all I see is this right here. I've put duct tape over the rest of the menu, and all I see is sandwiches. I guess you guys should rename yourself Sandwich Shop. But all you got is sandwiches here. Yeah, you're not looking at the rest of the menu. I stuck with Final Fantasy 16 because it performed where it mattered, but I won't touch the DLC until it's solid. We need to switch to members only on the chat, by the way. Guys, smash the like button. We've had a really, really strong turnout today. Usually when we have this many viewers, like 600 or 700, and yeah, we've gotten a handful of new subs and the like count's a little bit lower than we typically spend it. There's a lot of that crowd watching, clipping, whatever. I don't really care about them. If you enjoy discussions, debates, if you like going back and forth about this kind of stuff, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Stay for work, right? We get passionate. We get sharp in here sometimes, but your disagreement is welcome. Just know that you're going to get challenged on your position if you come in here. Like, I'm not going to put up with cheap shots from a gold badge, and I'm certainly not going to put up with cheap shots from, brand new people either. Like, come in, be respectful, engage in dialogue. Smash that like button, though. We should easily have 400 likes by now. Double check as well. YouTube's been really, really funky. YouTube's been really funky about not actually tracking and saving likes. So make sure that the likes are there when you push it. And right now, We turn the chat into more of a gaming Ask Me Anything. That's what AMA stands for. So it's more of a gaming AMA. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee about 15 minutes ago. 3 bags of dark roast to your first name starts with the letter D. Thank you so much. I wish we might be switching to something where I will be able to see y'all's usernames again, because currently I can't see them. Microsoft is the only company I know that has hardware but incentivizes you to play elsewhere. Lono, you would love Rebirth on normal mode. I just don't have any attachments to that game, so I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I don't think I would care for it. I know what I like, and I know what I don't like. And I know I've been won over by certain games that I thought I wasn't going to like, but I'm telling you, I have no attachment to that world and its characters. And if you don't have that attachment to that world and its characters, I just don't think that it's going to interest me at all. I already have an immense backlog anyway, so I'm not going to gamble with a couple hours of my time to play a game when I didn't enjoy Remake and didn't play Remake for long. I think I got like 3 hours into Remake and I was like, this is just not for me, right? It's just not my bag. And I have plenty of games in my backlog that I know are my bag. I have a sailor's mouth, but I wasn't clipping you. Oh, I know you weren't clipping me, Pork Toe. I never once intimated that you were trying to clip me. It just felt like a cheap shot. You know? It just felt like a cheap shot. It's like, dude, I've been covering so many topics. This is my most favorite game of all time. And you think I'm going to be sitting here just, nope, I did one show on it. I'm not going to talk about it again. Like, there was all this information that came out yesterday. I wasn't just going to ignore that. Like, put yourself in my shoes for 5 seconds and imagine the biggest game for you, your most exciting game, the game you love the most, the game you can't wait to play the sequel for. And how would you feel if all of a sudden you were like, yep, here we go again? I like Final Fantasy VII, but I stopped playing Rebirth. It just got too frustrating. Wasn't I got a little pushback and got quiet? I'm at work, so I had to do things. I wasn't expecting you to argue with me. I was just pushing back on what you said. It was like, I cover a ton of different things. What do you want me to do with Xbox? Not cover it? Like, that's always my question to that criticism. Right? I'm just supposed to not cover Xbox? Because right now, anytime they're in the headlines, it ain't good. So I'm just supposed to shelve it. They're bringing their games to other platforms. The games are coming to other platforms with exclusives. They run better, have more features, right? We're hearing about Gear 6 on the heels of Hellblade being revealed to be a 30 FPS game. Like, what am I supposed to do with all of that? What am I supposed to do with Phil Spencer saying they're doing a brand pivot? Or that we're going to be getting a handheld? I'm just supposed to not cover it? Let me ask you something. Where's all the good Xbox headlines? Where are they? Three hours, you've seen nothing of that game. But here's the thing, Mad Joe. That's never a defense of a game. If you played 3 hours of Rise of the Ronin and you're like, I'm just not vibing with it in the combat, I'd be like, yeah, then just stop playing. I wouldn't be like, oh, you haven't gotten to the point where you get stances and then you can use bonds to increase your stances and then you can use bonded missions to increase how good the stances are. Like, that wouldn't be compelling because you'd be like, I don't like the gameplay. Like, if you don't like the core gameplay, you're not going to be won over with more time. It's not that you get passionate. We hear the rest of the rhetoric about from the other streams. Bro, consoles are wasted money. I don't agree with you at all. I have gotten a massive amount of value of the 2 PlayStation 5s that I own and my PSVR 2 and my PlayStation Portal. You are completely incorrect. I've gotten well worth my value in the purchases of hardware that I've gotten from PlayStation. And my Series X is a dadgum paperweight. Are you making fun of me? No, No, I'm that far in the game, and I'm like, this is kind of cool, like all the stances, and you can make the stances stronger, and, you know, that's when the combat really elevates itself, I think. When you're looking at an enemy and you're switching your stance before they get to you, all of that's super fun, but that's not going to convince somebody that 3 hours in is like, I'm just not vibing with it. Like, that's not going to change. I was learning about Gears, not good. I didn't say learning about Gears was not good. I said we learned about Gears 6 on the heels of the Hellblade 2 news that was not good, that we got a 30 FPS Hellblade. I had a bunch of people telling me that Hellblade 2 can't be 60 FPS because it's Unreal 5 and all those features are really heavy, and then a couple of days later, I'm getting a completely different story about the Coalition in Gear 6. Oh no, they'll figure it out. They're the gods of Unreal. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I mean, 72 hours ago, it was Unreal 5 is tough. Look at all the games in Unreal 5. Their performance is shoddy. All those features are very costly and heavy. Okay, well, hopefully they go on a bargain sale of bandwidth over the next couple of years, because that's what Gear 6 is going to be in. That's why I covered Gears. I was like, literally on the heels of the Hellblade 2 news, we get like, oh, we're going to hear about Gear 6. And it's like, oh, I have a really hard time being excited about that after everything I was just told by people in the know about Unreal 5. Unreal 5 has been a big disappointment. Yes, it looks great, but it runs like arse on some systems. People expect things to run on a 10 series and a 20 series cards. It's just no longer realistic. Yeah, but why is that not realistic? They make up the largest portion of the PC gaming world. Like right now, if you made a game that can't run on a 20 series card, even the 10 series, right? Like most of the people on Steam have like what, like a 16 something? Like if you just got 20 series and down, you're out. You can't play our game. Oh, buddy, hopefully you're okay with selling to a very small market. Because the vast majority of the PC audience is not running a 30 or 40 series card. They're 20 series and down. They did a Fallout 4 PS5 and Xbox Series update on, coming on the 25th. Up to 60 FPS and increased resolution, performance and quality mode, stability improvements and fixes. Huh. Probably because of the show, right? Yeah, what is it? 1660 is like the most common card. It's the highest percentage of saturation in the Steam reports. So your Xbox, while it has some value? No. As a content creator, I need to have it. Because if Avowed and Indiana Jones come out, are those games going to have performance modes? This is why the Switch sells. The games that can't run on it typically don't come to it. Wait, I don't understand that sentence. You see why Sony is using their own studio engine and getting 60 FPS? That's not what the Steam reports mean. What are you talking about? If you think the PC market is not overwhelmingly saturated with people that are more mid-lane in their rig's power, 20 series cards and down. If you think that, what do you think the opposite is true? Do you think that 30 series cards and 40 series cards make up the majority? Do you think that? I don't think so. In-house tech is the best. So Odie on Twitter sent me some voice messages about the situation with Hellblade 2. And it was really interesting. Something kind of came to me as he and I were talking about. Like, I went to type back a message, and he was talking about how he really felt like the initial marketing for Hellblade 2, that they were going to get this investment from Microsoft, and it was going to make the game this just bigger and grander. He kept using that phrase, bigger and grander, in his just super awesome accent that he has, that I'm not going to attempt to impersonate. So he's saying, that's what he expected. And I was like, I kind of expected the same thing. Like in 2019, when we're coming off of the heels of a Project Scarlet marketing trailer, and then we get, later that year, we get the Hellblade 2 announcement trailer. It's like, yo, Xbox is going to bring the heat this gen. The Hellblade 2 looks like it's going to be bigger. It's going to be crazy, okay? And I basically told him that the reason that has not happened, and that the reason you see games like that happening on PlayStation, is because PlayStation has hardware synergy. There's a synergism between the developers and the hardware. Why? Because this kind of goes back to the debate about like, oh, just put PvP in the game. And I'm like, no. The best PvP games are just PvP games, right? They're sticking to their core competencies. Helldivers 2 is amazing. Why? We don't need PvP. Stick to your core competencies. It's a PvE game. It's a knock-around game with your buds. It's a great live service game. Stick to your core competencies. And there's a pure synergistic relationship between the developers, their in-house technology, and the hardware of the PlayStation 5. There's a beautiful relationship there. This is why exclusives are not the devil, by the way. Beautiful relationship there. And then you look at Xbox. There is no synergism between the developers and the hardware. There isn't. Like, that's why when you go back to that trailer and it says that Hellblade 2 is being built for the Xbox Series X, that's not true. They didn't do that. There's no frickin' way. No. They built a multi-plat game, and they started, pushing the envelope of tech. PlayStation, that would never happen on PlayStation because the developer and the hardware have a synergistic relationship, and they would say, we are going to get the best. We're going to get a performance mode. We're going to get 60 FPS. We're going to get the things that were promised for the hardware because the game and the hardware are linked together arm in arm. Hellblade 2 and the Xbox Series X really seemed that way in 2019. It ain't that way anymore. It isn't. It's just another title from Xbox to put on Game Pass, and we're gonna get all this praise for the tech and all this praise for the Unreal 5 engine, and that doesn't mean anything because it's like, well, that's not at all what I was hoping to get. I wasn't hoping to get some Unreal 5 tech demo. I was hoping for a triumph of a sequel, which, as I said, I still think we're going to get a great story, and we're still going to get great audio, and we're still going to get great acting and voice acting, because that heavy focus on production should serve those things. But if the gameplay and the performance of the game suffers under the weight of all of that, then in my mind, you have failed. That is not how a game should come to market. All the freedom and all of the amazing things you can do in Dragon's Dogma 2, it doesn't really matter when the game runs so poorly and is optimized so poorly. Like, who cares? No one's like, oh yeah, it's great. I can barely get 60 FPS, or I'm getting inconsistent performance. I'm getting crashes and everything else that was happening with that game, and still happening. It still has a terrible score on Steam. And it's not purely because of the microtransactions. That was, most of that was overblown. They were valid criticisms, but that wasn't the main reason to be voting that game with a low score. If you're broke, sure, 500 is a good deal for the PS5, but if you got 3K, ain't that much for something that will outlast console generations. Lono has a PC, that's what I was saying. Right, but even that argument's ludicrous, Porktoe, because if you go back 4 years, PlayStation 5 promised me a list of things. I handed them $500, and I got those things. Xbox Series X, promise a list of things. I hand them $500 and I've not been getting those things. And your response is, well, you have a PC, just play on a PC. You're not even talking to me. You're talking past me. You're talking right past me. That doesn't mean anything. I had this 2080 rig back then, and I still thought Series X and PS5, that sounds great. In my living room, super convenient. The games look awesome. Xbox has got great first-party property. So does PlayStation. Let's go. You're talking right past me when you're like, but you have a PC. Just play on PC. I didn't buy a Series X so that I could just always retreat to my PC for better performance. Why? Because the things... Let's imagine that, you know, Hellblade 2 was hitting 60 FPS on the Series X, but I could play it on PC and get a little bit better performance, turn on a couple more things, and make it look a little bit shinier. I would still prefer playing on the Series X because that's my preference as a consumer, and that's what I was promised. They literally got money from me for something I'm not getting, and you're just like, well, suck it up, Cupcake, play on your PC. Okay. What? I bought a car that was supposed to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and it can't do it. Well, just take the bus to work. It's more effective and more economic anyway. Like, you're not even talking to me when you say that. I bought an item, I bought a product to do these things. It's not doing these things, and you're like, well, just use this other thing instead. How new is that article from The Verge? Oh, that's in November of 2020? I don't understand. How do they know that? Early game comparisons show the PS5 outperforming the Series X. Oh, that was November of 2020. So that was after they were all talking about how, like, the PlayStation 5 wasn't going to be as good. Sell your Xbox? No, having the Xbox as a content creator is important because I need to be able to test games when they come out. If a game actually comes out with a performance mode, I need to be able to play it on my Series X to show, oh, maybe they are getting better. Maybe they push out an update for Hellblade 2. I don't know. I'm not going to get rid of my Series X. Like, that doesn't solve a problem. That doesn't, like, as a content creator, that doesn't make any sense for me to do that. Like, I need to be able to test Indiana Jones and Avowed and other games. Or again, you know, Plague Tale Requiem pushed out a performance patch for them. They push out a 60 FPS patch in the future. Did he really say RDNA 7? So that video he's claiming is the new Xbox is going to have RDNA 7? What even is that? Is that even a thing? What kind of test do you do? I turn on the game and I play it? What? I don't do benchmarks and tech tests and like frame counting or any of that. I can boot up a game and tell you how well it's running. What do you mean, what kind of tests do I do? I played Redfall when it came out on my Xbox Series X. I played Starfield when it came out on my Xbox Series X just to see if I could tolerate it. Hellblade 2 is going to be on Game Pass. I'll install it on my Series X and I'll say, all right, let's see how this looks. And I'll be like, gross. And then I'll go play on my PC. All that would happen if I got rid of my Series X is people would be like, how can you speak about how that game runs? You don't even have a Series X, Lono. These these ravenous weirdos who hate watch and like look for any inconsistency they can find. Like, quick, get that 45-second clip so we can make it look like this guy is a fraud, right? Like a vested interest in that. That's all they would do. Is if I got rid of my Series X, Avowed would come out and I'd be talking about its performance on Series X and be like, yeah, I'm playing on PC. And they'd be like, look at this fraud talking about the Series X. He doesn't even have one. Like they're so hungry that they don't even understand when I publish a screenshot of 37 hours in Hellblade 1 with 3 clears, and the guy's like, but you've never completed it because I've missed a trophy. There's a spot in the game where if you go too far, you can't go back, and I miss the dadgum rune every time. Did King Thrash taught you how to do it too? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Who cares what people say? Enjoy the game in its best form. Right, but as a video game commentator, as a gaming news channel, I need to be able to say, I have every platform. I played that game. I tried it out. Here was my experience. That's important. I'm not going to do frame by frames and side by sides. I don't think that's how testing works, bro. What's amazing about this conversation is I don't care what you think testing is. I don't care. Like, I don't go and like check with you like, hey, am I allowed to use this word, right? I want to test this game when it comes out. You understand the word has a range of meaning, right? Like, anybody can test a game when it comes out. Yeah, I tested it out. It ran pretty well. Oh, thanks for telling me that. Or do you gut check all your friends? Oh, you tested it? Huh? Are you Digital Foundry now? No, you don't do that. You're being persnickety and pedantic for no reason. I can boot up a game on my Series X, play it, and I can make an approximation of how it's running. Is there pop-in? Is there stuttering? Is there hitches? Are there crashes? How's the lighting look? How's the texture look? Is the game running smoothly and is it running well? You want to try to, discredit me because I'm not doing like a frame by frame analysis frame counter like Digital Foundry. Go right ahead. My brand isn't centered around that content anyway. You're trying to check my credentials, and I'm not claiming to have any. I'm saying I boot up the game. I've been playing games for a really long time. I can tell you if it's running well. Like, for example, I've constantly given people feedback on the performance of Rise of the Ronin. Has anybody once been like, yeah, but did you get out a frame counter? Did you do a Digital Foundry comparison? Did you do a benchmark test? No, nobody did that because they know that when you play a game and you analyze its performance, you can tell if it's running well or not, or if it's hitching, or if it's frame dropping. It's not hard. It's easy to see. That's not what you said earlier. I said that I'm going to keep my Series X so I can test the games when they come out. Like, I feel like you're hungry for a clip. You're hungry for a fight. What are we even discussing? I said, just off the cuff, I wasn't being super technical. I want to keep my Series X so when these games come out, I can test them out and see how they run. And if I have to then retreat to my PC, I will. There's nothing wrong with me saying that. That's just like me playing Rise of the Ronin and saying, yeah, I'm going to test it out. I'm going to see how it's running. It looked rough in the trailers. And then I report back to you, yes, in the open world and in the towns, it's pretty stuttery. The frames aren't consistent. I've not had anybody gut check my credentials in the comments of being like, oh, yeah, but you didn't do a benchmark in a frame analysis check, and you didn't count the frames like Digital Foundry did. Nobody's done that. Why? Because the average gamer can play a game and report back to you very generally about the performance. I've been playing and covering games for 10 years. I have experience with analyzing frame drops and frame stutters with my capture cards. Like, I'm very adept at detecting if there are frame stutters or frame drops or resolution changes. I remember the first time I played Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, and I played it on my brand new awesome TV, and I said, yeah, I can tell when the resolution's dropping a little bit when I'm on the horse. How you test it? That's not the explanation you said earlier. That's a good excuse to keep the Xbox, but you made it look like you just booted the game to see if you liked how it looked. Your inability to understand what I said earlier is your own fault. I'm done talking to you. Like, your inability to understand what I was saying, like, people like you don't listen in good faith. You're looking for something to pick apart. It's not fun having a conversation with people like you. It's like getting in an argument with that person that always tries to pick apart what you're saying instead of just taking what you say at face value. Nobody else in the chat, there's 650 people here. There's not a single person here that heard me say, I want to keep my Series X so I can test the games out when they come out. Nobody thought I meant that I was doing like some kind of a deep tech analysis of the game. Nobody heard and thought that because nobody's trying to grind some weird axe of an argument. I never once indicated what you heard. Your inability to hear well is your own fault. Nobody else here thought that. Like, I've let some of you guys hang out because you keep it respectful, but I swear some of you guys are so stuck in like, I gotta argue with him. I've got to try to catch him in a gotcha. I've got to try to catch him in a contradiction that you end up just saying things that don't even make sense. It's honestly confusing. But you do a deep tech analysis? No, I don't. I've never done a deep tech analysis. Reporting back on whether or not the frames are consistent or smooth or if there's frame droppage, that's not a deep tech analysis. Who would even call that a deep tech analysis? Lono does us a favor by not doing deep tech analysis. Right. I can tell you if a game's frames are dropping. I can tell you if there's stutters. Happened in Elden Ring in that opening area. It was real bad that launch night we played. It was tough. It was like, ugh, this is rough. You can see it's like, it was like a record skipping. I have to plug my PlayStation in. Hang on, because I don't think I have the update for Helldivers. We got to shift to Helldivers. That's deeper than what most people do. Isn't it wonderful when we come full circle and we can now establish that you've wasted everyone's time? It's just beautiful, isn't it? So when I initially said, because I'm a content creator, I want to keep it so that I can commentate on those games. I can test them out when they come out. Right. You're exactly right. That's deeper than what most people do. I'm not most people. The entire beginning of this discussion was me saying, as a content creator, I'm going to keep my Series X so that when these games come out, I can test them out and say, I don't want people being like, oh, look at this idiot. He's talking about how the game runs on a Series X. He doesn't even have a Series X. I'm not the normal gaming populace. This entire conversation started because I was like, I'm going to keep it because I'm a content creator. I'm saying he indeed does a deep analysis. He's doing a good job, but he made it sound like he didn't do it anything like that. Homie, I again think that you are really, really stretching. I don't think anybody here would say I do deep analysis of games performance. That's not what I'm known for. You can't find a single video on this channel, my review of Avatar, my review of the Stellar Blade demo where I say the game is going to be good, my first impressions of games, my initial reactions to games. I don't think there's anybody here or has subbed to this channel, it's like, yeah, man, he does really, really good deep analysis of the games. Like, that's not what I do. I'm very surface level on my analysis of games and how they're running. Lono doesn't count pixels, and I'm not sure he knows how to spell path tracing. You're not being fair to the series. I actually got to wait for the tools. Yeah, I mean, I'll do deep analysis of like mechanics and systems and player incentivization and player psychology and gameplay loops, right? And loot tables and, you know, and content structure. I will 100% do that. But Lono paid a man to install an SSD. Tech analysis F off. What is happening today? I don't know. You're admitting to shallow analysis. Got my clip, TY. Like, come on. What are we even talking about? Oh, Lord. I can see how some might think that you do, though, depending on the type of content that they consume. I think the guy has a point, and he wasn't trying to be just in my opinion. RDNA 7 is coming, don't worry. Yeah, it'll be here soon. Paid someone to install an SSD. That's a gross exaggeration of what happened, okay? My PC stopped working. I didn't know why. It just was randomly crashing, and it was getting worse. So I took it to the local shop. And he gets on the phone with me and says, the hard drive is failing. We can install an SSD. We can move all your data. Here's how much it costs. And I said, do it. Why? Because I couldn't do that. Now, certainly I could have watched a YouTube video and I could have installed a new SSD. I wouldn't have had a clue on how to move all of my data. I wouldn't have had a clue how to do it. I'm not equipped to do that. I don't have the setup, the know-how. I don't have any frame of reference to do that. So I was like, you already have my PC and you can move the data. How much? I don't even remember. They charged me the price of the hard drive, which was basically the price if I would have bought it myself. They didn't like upcharge me on the hard drive. And then they charged me like labor, which was, I don't even know. It wasn't that much. I mean, 50, 70 bucks or something like that to install it and move all of my data. It was my streaming rig. So all of my recorded videos, all of my assets that I stream with was all there. And it's like, I wouldn't begin to know how to move that. If the hard drive is failing, I don't know how to move all that stuff. Control C, Control P. It's not that simple, though. The hard drive was failing. So they literally made, and they basically, like, I don't know, what is that, an image? Like, they basically made an image of it or whatever and brought it all over. I don't know how to do any of that. Why am I going to waste an afternoon / evening / night doing that? I'm not familiar with it. I don't have time for that. He also pays a man to cut his grass. Yeah, I pay a man to cut my grass because I don't have time for that. I'd rather spend time with my family than be down here in the office goofing off with hardware. That's why I would never do tech analysis. That's not what, I don't even get excited about that. I'll tell you about a game's performance. That's about it. That's why I made the Thrash comment, because they want to say you're stupid, like they think that he is. I mean, I don't know why anybody would. I don't know. I mean, it's marginally entertaining watching people with like barely a high school's education claim that I'm not intelligent. Like, I've always kind of enjoyed that, but like, it starts to get a little bit hard to believe. I mean, I guess let them think that if it makes them feel better about themselves. That's fine. All right, I got to set up this Helldiver stream. Okay, there we go. No, don't restrict it. What the what? Now, yesterday, it did not send an extra notification when the live stream processed. If that's been happening, I don't have any control over that, guys, so I am sorry that that's happening. You should just be getting notifications like when a stream is scheduled and then like when a stream goes live. Like, you should not be getting another notification like once the stream processes. Dunning-Kruger is real. Let's see here. Yeah, I watched episode 1 of the Fallout TV show. I really, really liked it. They are nailing it. They are nailing it. It's like, it's exactly what I would want. Like, if somebody's like, imagine a Fallout TV show, it's like, it's exactly what I would have imagined. Like, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's everything that I want from a video game TV show. And all these people that are going to like console war about TV shows and like compare it to The Last of Us, like, I don't think there's even a reason to do that. They're very, very different in style and approach. Like, the gravity and the character development, all that, it's just going to be completely and utterly different. Like, I think they can be amazing in their own ways. Like, comparing them just doesn't make sense. Should you boot up Helldivers for some shenanigans? Creature wanted me to at least show off the new mission. We are of the opinion that a short stream showing off the war bond is far better than blast. I'm gonna have to reset the cap card. I don't know why that's happening. We think that that's just better served. Just like, let's look at the new war bond. Let's look at all the things and do like a shorter stream instead of like doing like a long drawn out thing with gameplay. Like, we're not a gameplay stream. So if we're going to do gameplay, it's usually to showcase something new. New game, new mission, new something. Just watching me play a game is just not, that just isn't the vibe here. So we think that that's wasted airtime that we could be using to hang out with members and give the members more content or plan another show and stuff like that. So, new mission type can be done pretty easily with 3 and some Quasar cannons. Yeah, we could do that. Let's do that. I'm setting up right now. I've got to reset my capture card. Give me 1 second. Okay. Now I should be able to come here and then deactivate, reactivate cap card. There we go. Audio was coming through, just not video. I don't really know why that happens. So, and I'll keep the goal up. So if we try to hit 50, you guys certainly moved the line today. We're trying to get to 2,500, and you guys got pretty close to 2,300 today. And we should not be losing big chunks of members over the next couple of days. So that's going to help us maintain some momentum. Sometimes we get 30 days away from some like really big days, and we just end up constantly slipping down. So I'm trying to monitor that and just help us keep that momentum. Oh, that's not the right tag. I almost tagged my tweet with Hellblade. It always suggests Helldiver II. I don't know why. And then I just do this because sometimes we get like feedback. I'm not worried about you guys like saying anything like or being rude or anything like that. Okay, checking out the new war bond and the new mission. Close that. All right. Okay, so I am going to redirect you guys. I am also going to put an announcement in the Discord. I'm also going to spam a link in the chat. Do me a favor when we get over there, smash the heck out of that like button. We had a really, really great result yesterday from a Helldivers stream, and it's really, really nice to be able to cover Helldivers. Right? Are we in between songs? Like, I just put my headphones on. I'm not hearing anything. Okay, I was like, did we actually run with no music all day today? That would be terrible. Okay, there we go. Okay. So there's a link in chat. I'll redirect. Please, when we get over there, man, smash the heck out of that like button. Try to hit the like button before we leave the stream that we're in right now. Take a second, double check that it saved your like. We should easily have 400 likes. You know, I think the hate watchers were strong today because they knew I was going to be angry about Hellblade 2. So that's fine. It helps the channel, but so do the likes. So make sure you guys are smashing it. And then, all right, I'm going to start the new stream. Thanks so much for checking this out. I am going to be doing a very, very quick stream/video of the brand new war bond. I'm going to look at all the items. There's stuff for the ship upgrades. There's a new mission type. We're going to try to do that, all of that in this video. This is a daily live stream channel where we do a talk show. We just talked yesterday about Helldivers 2. Huge turnout for that. Thank you. If you're looking for more regular quick updates, be sure to subscribe to Helldivers 2 updates. That is the name of the channel, youtube.com/. You can just do @Helldivers 2 updates. That's our updates channel. There's shorts, there's quick videos. I'm going to end the previous stream about Hellblade 2 and bring people over with a redirect. And thank you to everybody who was there for that. If you didn't see my commentary on that, pretty disappointed in some of the stuff. So I am going to go ahead and buy